It's been what, 7 years, a million in 7 years versus, maybe the next million's in 3 years, maybe the next million's in a year, who knows, but I'm just excited about going on this journey. If this is your first time meeting me, my name is LaTisha Styles. I am a mentor for high achievers. I'm known for creating 6- and 7-figure earners by helping clients identify and dissolve the subconscious blocks, preventing them from unlocking their full potential. Speaking of 7-figure earners, I actually just did all the calculations and the numbers, and I hit $1 million earned in my business as of June 2022. So that's like total revenue to date, which is a very exciting thing because I always said that I wanted to make $1 million, and now I can say that I've actually made $1 million in my business. So very excited about that. And yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to celebrate that, because sometimes we get a little bit down on ourselves and we're like, well, I didn't make $1 million in a year. I'm like, no, I'm gonna celebrate this moment because it's a big one. And the funny thing is, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but when I first earned 100K in a year, I was really excited about that. And I celebrated that moment. And then I was able to do that within 6 months that next year. So it was like I earned 100K just in 6 months of that next year. So it's like, you have to celebrate each step of your journey. Zan says, how does it feel to run a millionaire business versus a 6-figure or multi-6-figure business? Honestly, it doesn't really feel that much different. It really does not feel different. The main difference is what I just shared, which is with all of that revenue, I was able to take care of a lot of things personally speaking. And that is really what's made the biggest difference. So I don't necessarily, for me, it wasn't the money it wasn't like a different level of business. When I made, I think I was most excited when I made my first 5K in a month, right? And we talked about this. My husband and I were actually just talking about this the other day. We were listening to a podcast and they were talking about, your level of excitement. Basically, once you hit a certain level of excitement at an experience or something that you've done, if you were to do that same thing again, you're not at the same, you can't get the same feeling, right? You don't necessarily have that same vibe or same feeling because you've already been there, done that. And if you try to imagine, for example, the most exciting day of your life, or what you would classify as, what would I do if I were trying to host the most exciting day of my life? Well, if you try to do that most exciting day over and over and over and over and over again, suddenly now it's not the most exciting day anymore, right? And so we started having that conversation, and I started thinking about, just from a business standpoint, what was most exciting for me. And honestly, the most exciting thing for me was reaching that very first 5K in a month. Even when I hit 10K, I remember I hit 5K, and then in that month that I hit 5K, I shared exactly what I did. So I had created a series called 5 Steps to 5K. It was a live stream series where I was just gonna do 5 days of live streams, and I was just talking about, what I actually did to make that happen. And while I was doing that live stream series, that month, I actually hit 8K. And so I quickly renamed the series 8 Steps to 8K, because I'm like, okay, well, 8K is a much more exciting number, right? And also because I was working with a mentor, and she actually taught me how to do a live stream series to convert. And I was missing some pieces. So I was like, well, I'll just add 3 more sessions. So I did 8 Steps to 8K, and that series is actually still available. I've never re-recorded it because it literally was how I was feeling when I hit that first $8,000 in a month. And then I remember a couple months later, I hit 11K, and then I hit 10K again, another month. And so it was that wasn't as exciting as that very first time I hit 5K. And so for me, getting to 6 figures felt good, but it wasn't as exciting as that first 5K. And then when I got to $250,000 that very next year, that felt good, but it wasn't as exciting as that 5K. And then when I hit 300K last year, I did 314 last year, still wasn't as exciting. And so to be honest, I didn't even realize that I had hit $1 million. I was tracking it, which is why I was able to figure it out quickly, but I had stopped paying attention to the number and I stopped tracking it. So it's August now, right? And I just went into my tracking spreadsheet and I was like, oh yeah, I should have hit $1 million by now. And once I started putting the rest of the numbers in and started tracking it, it was like, okay, I hit $1 million and a little bit over it. I hit $1 million right in June. And so, that felt really good. It felt like something that I wanted to celebrate, sense of accomplishment. And also at the same time, the more exciting thing for me was getting rid of the student loans, because that was the thing that was dragging me down for the longest time. And I did a video about it on YouTube where I was like, I'm gonna get rid of my 65,000 of student loans. It's funny because I was so young, like my voice sounds different. As you get older and your voice deepens just a little bit, but like I was like, here's how I plan to get rid of my 65,000 of student loans. And it was like that, I had that number for the longest time, like really very frustrating. So once the student loan interest moratorium started, right, because of COVID, I was like, okay, like before they end this, I'm gonna get rid of these things. Like I'm not having them anymore. I really don't care what has to happen. Like it's gonna happen. And so I essentially put all of my personal disposable income towards it. I actually also pulled some money out of the business, like tax-free, which meant that I had a bigger tax bill at the end of the year, but like I needed to make it happen. And then once that happened, that's when I really felt that sense of like, really like freedom. So long story short, I'm sure that's not really the question that you had, but that's essentially what it was. My business has always been a way for me to not only teach what I'm learning, because I always felt like if somebody knew, like, why wouldn't they tell me? So I always wanted to be that person. But also it's been a way for me to achieve a lot of my own personal financial goals and improve my money mindset. So I'm gonna have a lot more content coming around money mindset soon. Yeah, I felt very accomplished when I hit that first 5K, because for me, that was a sense of you can do it, it's possible, and look, you just did it. So if you can do 5K, you can do 10K. And if you can do 10K, you can do 100K. And the only thing, and I'll share that for you guys also, is like the only thing that's preventing you from going from $1 to 10 to 20 to 100 to 100,000 is literally your level of belief. It's your level of belief. It's your ability to take action from that next level version of yourself. So I remember in my journal, I had started writing, what does the 300K, right? The version of LaTisha who earns 300K a year, what does she know that the current version of LaTisha gets to learn? And I think when I was writing that out, I don't think I was even at 100K yet, because 300K sounded like such a big number. I think I was still trying to get to 100K. And I remember I have to find the journal or find what I was writing, and I'll share it with you guys. But I remember just writing stuff about like how I felt, what I did, what I would accept, things that I stood for, things that I stood against, things that I would not allow people to do, like, walking all over me, and just the person that I knew that I would become, or that I had to be at 300, making 300K. That was the number that I chose, like that at 300K, like what does she know that me currently needs to know? And so I started writing those things out, started writing them down. And as I started doing that, I started changing my actions and things that I was doing so that I could level up and be that person, be that version of me, which then in turn allowed me to get there. So really, really big thing and important to understand.